An Average American Guy. Chapter 3. John and Carrie Lee waited near the library until Mr. Wade arrived to drive them to her home so John could visit Margie. John gently knocked on Margie's bedroom door. She looked up. "John, please come in and sit here next to me." John smiled at her. "When you were not there after my shower, I didn't know what to do. I had to wait till church to ask Carrie Lee." "I'm so glad everything is okay," Margie said. "Can I have a kiss?" And John leaned over to kiss her, and she grabbed onto him to kiss and hug him. When they came up for air, John drew a deep breath and gave her a great big smile, hug, and kiss again. She sighed. Then John asked, "How long are you going to be laid up?" She said, "I don't know, a few days or so. I guess we will miss a dance lesson or two." John had stayed about half an hour when Mr. Wade stepped in. "John, I'll take you home now." John kissed Margie and went with Mr. Wade. Mr. Wade and John rode to John's house. "Mr. Tolliver, how do you feel about my daughter?" John looked at Mr. Wade. "Sir, I know that society says we're too young, but I'm in love with Margie." Mr. Wade responded, "How does she feel about you?" John replied, "I don't know. I hope she likes me." Mr. Wade said, "John, I want to give you a bicycle and a job." John's reply was, "Sir?" Mr. Wade said again, "I want to give you a bicycle and a job." John responded, "Thank you, sir. What's the job?" Mr. Wade replied, "Pumping gas at one of my gas stations. The bicycle is transportation to the station. You would work about 4 hours Monday through Friday and 8 hours on Saturdays. You would be free to do your homework when not attending to customers. You will have to get a work permit from your guidance counselor." John replied, "Yes, sir. But I would have to talk to my mom." Mr. Wade said, "Of course. I'll pick you up and Carrie Lee tomorrow, and we'll talk more. Okay?" John nodded. "Yeah. Thank you, sir." Then he went into his house. John saw a plate of dinner on the table, and his mom sat across from him. He sat, prayed, and began to eat. "Mom, Mr. Wade has offered me a part-time job and a bicycle." She asked, "What kind of job?" He replied, "A gas station attendant. 4 hours after school and 8 hours on Saturday. What do you think?" She responded, "It's not what I think. What do you think? What about homework, baseball, and maybe football later on?" He thought, "I guess I'll have to talk to him about that." Much to John's delight, Margie recovered quickly and was soon back in school. They had lunch together every day. They kissed every day. John attended baseball practice every day. He worked at the gas station every day. John received a good wage for his work and began saving a little money. One day, John met Margie at lunchtime. John sat beside her. "Margie, I have a present for you if you'll accept it." She smiled at him. "What is it?" He opened his hand to show a gold band. "It's a promise ring. Will you wear it?" She asked, "What's a promise ring?" He answered, "I give you this ring. Engraved on the ring, it says, 'I will always be true to you.' Will you wear my ring?" She sparkled, "Yes, oh yes. Please tell me where you got it." He replied, "I got it at Snowden's jewelry store." A few days later, Margie asked John to go to Snowden's with her. "I want to give you a promise ring, but I need you there so that we get the right size. Okay?" John took her in his arms and whirled her around. "Yes, yes, yes." And he kissed her. "Margareta Jean Wade, I love you." She smiled through her tears. "Oh, John Thomas Tolliver, I love you." John was not the leadoff pitcher that week but was in the bullpen. The score was 3-2 for Wharton High. It was the bottom of the 9th inning, and Coach Young called John to the mound. John would have to face at least 3 batters. John used his slider to take down the 2 batters. Coach Young called a timeout and walked out to talk to John. "John, your slider has done a great job. Throw this guy a slider the first time, then give him your fastball." John threw a slider. It startled the batter. Strike 1. Coach Young used his radar timer as John threw his second pitch to this batter. Strike 2. Coach Young checked his radar gun, 86 miles an hour. The coach breathed, "One more like that." John wound up and threw with everything he had. Strike 3. Margie was hugging John out of nowhere. "Oh, John, that was spectacular. I'm so proud to be your girlfriend." Surrounded by the team, Margie and John were drenched in Gatorade. Coach Young patted John's shoulder as they went to the locker room, 90 miles an hour. The leadoff pitcher was on the team's shoulders, waving to the crowd. The win was his, but John was proud that the team had won. Margie told John she was going home to clean up because of the Gatorade. John showered and walked out to find his family waiting for him, Joy yelling that she wanted a kiss. John picked her up, and they traded smooches. Gloria kissed one cheek as Lydia kissed the other. Just as the school newspaper reporter took a picture, "John, look for that one in next week's Bulldog." John told his family that he was going to work, grabbed the bicycle, and rode off to the gas station. Mr. Wade was waiting for him at the gas station. "John, great game. Margie told me that the last fastball was 90 miles an hour. Is that true?" John smiles. "That's what Coach Young told me." Mr. Wade said, "Congratulations. I'm proud of you, my boy. Next month is Margie's birthday. We will celebrate on Sunday the 16th. Think you can make it?" John replied, "Yes, sir." "Thank you, sir." Mr. Wade turned to leave but hesitated. "John, Margie likes fresh roses. Say about a dozen, and maybe some chocolate candy. Just a suggestion." Then he left the station. John spent the evening basking in praise of all his customers while pumping gas. At the end of his shift, another high schooler relieved him just as he finished cleaning up the restrooms. His relief clapped him on the shoulder. "Great game, John. 90 miles an hour. Wow." John blushed, thanked him, and rode off into the dusk. John ate a quick dinner at home, showered, and got ready for the dance lessons. He daydreamed about dancing with Margie when the doorbell rang. Gloria yelled, "John, dance lessons. Time to go." John rushed out the door and kissed his mom. "Thanks, Mom." John's sophomore year sped by at light speed. During the latter part of the second semester, John and Margie dated. They attended the sock hops and special dance nights and would just walk in a close-by park in the cool of the evening. The Wades would invite John and Carrie Lee's boyfriend to a dance put on by the dance instructors every time there were 5 Saturdays in a month. John and Margie talked about many things, but their future was a priority topic. Hopes and dreams, jobs, houses, kids, family, a life together. One day, as they lunched together, Margie said, "I read a romance novel last week." They talked about a special kiss. His interest piqued. John asked, "What's special about this kiss?" She replied, "It's called a French kiss. You put your tongue in the other person's mouth when you kiss." John recoiled. "That sounds horrible." Margie said, "That's what I thought at first, but thinking about doing it with you has become exciting. Think about it, okay?" He said, "I won't be able to think about anything else." Ugh. The next lunch hour, John said, "I've thought about that French kiss. I think doing it with you would be fun. As you said, exciting. It might be dangerous too." She looked at John. "I know. We'll have to be careful." John took her in his arms. "I'm in love with you, Margie." And they tried their first French kiss. When they came up for air, they said, "Wow." But then the bell rang, and they ran to their next class. Later that evening, Margie and Carrie Lee were talking. Carrie Lee asked, "Did you tell John about the French kiss?" Margie replied, "We tried it this afternoon." Carrie Lee asked, "Well? What was it like?" Margie replied, "Like nothing I have ever done before. It was exciting. It was fun. I got the funniest feeling in my stomach, and my panties got real wet. It was a wow." Carrie Lee asked, "Do you think Donnie and I should try it?" Margie replied, "Do you want a wow?" Carrie Lee replied, "Oh yes." And Margie replied, "Then do it. But give Donnie time to come to grips with the idea first." I told John yesterday and asked him to think about it. This afternoon, he was okay with it. So I think that we will do a lot of French kissing. Summer came. Mr. Wade had John work 35 hours a week at the gas station. John and Margie dated every Friday evening. A relative had given the family a 2-door Chevy Coupe, only 10 years old. John and Margie were allowed to go to the local Passion Pit, the local drive-in movie theater. They experienced 10,000 French kisses. One evening Margie shyly asked, "Could we go park alone?" John replied, "I wish. But we don't need to be putting ourselves at risk. I do want to make love to you. I daydream about it all the time. But I want a piece of paper that says you and I have vowed to be together for the rest of our lives. That's why the promise ring, Margie said. Oh John, I want you so badly, but you're right. Please take me home. At home, in her room, Carrie Lee asked why she was home so early. Margie told her about their conversation, and Carrie Lee said, I think John really loves you. He wants to marry you. He wants to protect you and your future together. Margie responded, of course he loves me, and he is right, but I want him to make love to me so bad. I wish. Then Margie cried herself to sleep. Margie and John talked about their hopes, dreams, and frustrations. They loved each other and wanted to spend their life together. They talked about their raging teenage hormones and desires but were adamant about waiting. They prayed together daily for peace and talked with the pastor every Wednesday evening. They began to back off from the French kissing and concentrated on comforting each other, loving each other, and helping each other cope with the waiting. In his junior year, John played football and baseball, worked for Mr. Wade, and continued his relationship with Margie. They went to the dances, walked in the park, and went to the movies. John dined with the Wades, and Margie dined with John's family. John took Margie out for dinner several times, and Margie took John out several times. John and Margie were together as much as possible. In his senior year, John played football and baseball, worked for Mr. Wade and continued his relationship with Margie. John spent time with the senior counselor to try for scholarships and apply to several universities. Unfortunately, John received no scholarships at the end of the year, and every university he had applied to turned him down. As a consequence, John thought about joining the army. John and Margie talked about the army hours on end. The tension between them continued unabated throughout their senior year. When prom night arrived, John had gotten a tuxedo and drove them to the prom. After prom, they joined Larry and Lydia, Donnie and Carrie Lee at the Wades' home for a candlelight post-prom dinner and a little quiet dancing before going home. John was scheduled to go to the Army recruiting office 2 weeks after graduation. Margie went to the recruiters with him, hugged him, kissed him, and turned the promise ring on his finger as he twisted the promise ring on her finger. After that, they both vowed to be true and wait. John would get an enlistment bonus as soon as he graduated from his AIT, Advanced Individual Training. He intended to send it home to his mom for the family. John was tested, examined, and shipped to Fort Ord, California, for BCT, Basic Combat Training. He was in the reception company for a week, which was not the greatest experience in the world. Then he was sent to his BCT company, headquarters and headquarters company, 1st Battle Group, 1st Brigade, Head 11. There to spend 9 weeks until graduation and home for 2 weeks and then report to his next duty station for AIT. John flew home and was greeted at the airport by his family and Margie. Joy jumped up and down, wanting a kiss, so John picked her up, and they exchanged smooches while Gloria, Lydia, and Margie waited their turn. John grabbed his brother, Peter, and hugged him for a couple of minutes. Then, setting Joy down, John turned to Margie, wrapped his arms around her, and kissed her. When they came up for air, he turned, picked up his duffel bag, and said, "Let's go home." Their little coupe had room for 4 people, so Joy sat on Lydia's lap, Margie sat on John's, and Gloria drove. On the road, Margie and John engaged in a little petting while everyone else talked. Margie noticed that John had hard muscles under his uniform. She pulled his shirt up to see rock-hard six-pack abs. She whispered in his ear, "John, those muscles are beautiful." Finally, they got to the Wades' home. Margie kissed John and went inside. Then John's family went home. Gloria told the kids, "Lunch in 10 minutes." She entered the kitchen, put a casserole into the microwave, and started the machine. John was paraded around the high school and the neighborhood, Margie continually on his arm. 2 weeks went by fast, and soon John was at the bus station to ride to his next duty station. The family and Margie were there to see him off. On the bus, John was surrounded by Marines, just out of boot camp like he was. The Marines were bound for Camp Lejeune and John to Fort Lee. But they would be on this bus for many hours. John sat beside a Lance Corporal named Alan Smith. Alan and John talked all night. John found out that Alan had been trained at Fort Lee. Then when it came time to change buses, Alan and John exchanged home addresses since they were unsure where they would be for a week or so. John was looking toward to at least 36 weeks of training, then reassignment. It was cold at Fort Lee. John and his class of graduates stood at parade rest in the post gym, waiting to cross the stage for their certificates of satisfactory completion and reassignment orders. Private First Class John Tolliver was the last in his class to cross the stage, being that his name began with T. Upon looking at his orders, John found that he was assigned to the 184th Ordnance Battalion, EOD. He had 2 weeks to report to Oakland Army Terminal for jungle fatigue uniforms and then transportation to Vietnam. When John got off the aircraft at Ben Hoa Air Base, he was picked up by a sergeant in a jeep and taken to the 184th Ordnance Battalion, EOD. He was greeted by the sergeant major and introduced to his new first sergeant, First Sergeant Kent. First Sergeant Kent walked with John to his new company and introduced him to his new company commander, Captain Callahan, platoon leader, Lieutenant Unger, and team leader, Sergeant Jones. All these men did their best to ease John into the company and new routine. He was also trained to disarm enemy ordnance and was given such assignments commensurate with his experience. Then one day, John was called to assist a Marine company in disarming an unexploded rocket in the unit's berm. John took his tools, a jeep, and a map and drove to the Marine compound. Arriving, he reported to the Marine company commander and was introduced to a Marine sergeant named Alan Smith. John and Alan recognized each other and grabbed each other with several bangs on the back and a laugh. The company commander asked, "You two know each other?" They both replied, "Yes, sir. We were on the same bus until we got to Chicago and parted. John went to Fort Lee, and I went to Camp Lejeune." "Good to see you, John. Let's go disarm that rocket." Alan and John went to the berm and examined the rocket. Alan told John that he had never seen this model before, and that's why his unit asked for help. John looked the rocket over and replied, "I've seen 4 of these, and I have disarmed 2. This one will make 3. It took an hour. Alan and John took the disarmed rocket to the Marine disposal site, then Alan took John to the NCO club for a beer. At first, the club manager refused to allow a private first class into the club, but Alan explained what they had done, and the manager bought them both a beer.